Good afternoon. I'm Mamadee, host of the Media Connection TV, and I'm here with a special sister that if you don't know, you need to know. Evangel Mamadee Yhwhnewbn. And she's a host of the Female Solution Global Radio TV show every fourth Saturday of the month. And she is also quite a long-time educator and activist. And she is especially reminding us of the history of those who experienced the transatlantic slave trade and how we need to express it in the proper language in order to give the true meaning of who we are and what really happened. We're here at the 56th annual Rainbow Push Convention. We just finished a really exciting luncheon, and the minister's luncheon, and I heard some interesting things. What stuck out in my mind was that Santita Jackson, daughter of Reverend Jackson, they were presenting an award to some of the African dignitaries, and she said, "We want to welcome you to America, the land we built." That was significant. So, what was your thoughts about the luncheon today?
You see, that is the whole thing. I believe, well, first of all, everybody knows that a continent is different from a country. We are the only ones that was kidnapped. We were kidnapped from a continent coming in chains. Everybody else over here, except the ones that was over here, came from a country by choice. Coming in chains and being held in those chains for 246 years as a movable property thing called chattel is different. So Reverend Dr. Prophet King and I believe it's August 31st, 2001, 21 years ago, the United Nations, and they said the world needed to honor the memory of the victims of these tragedies. So, and when they declared it a crime against humanity, they recommended reparations for descendants. Well, within a few days, the hit on America happened, September 11th.
Hit on America.
And all of that went off the radar. But for 21 years, every March 25th, they have been commemorating the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. And they wanted to do a more permanent reminder. So on March 25th, 2015, they erected the Ark of Return, a memorial that took them 6 years to build in Manhattan, New York. It's called the Ark of Return. And that same year, they also designated 2015 to 2024 as a decade to deal with the police killing of black men and boys, disproportionate arrests, and massive school closings. And so here it is, almost 10 years have passed, no elected official, no anybody have even brought it up. And it's because we keep using the wrong language. Reverend Dr. Prophet King, and yes, I'm calling him Prophet King because on August 28th, which is my birthday, he shared a personal dream with it, of his, about his 4 little children, etc. But on April 3rd, 1968, he left, the day before his assassination, he left behind a prophetic vision. He says, I might not get there with you, but we as a people, he meant we as a Negro people, will get to the promised land. And I think that we will get to the promised land through the righteousness of reparations. But we must get the language straight.
It's interesting that, and you've done some radio shows on this. We are constantly changing what it is we call ourselves. We went from, of course, nigger, which we know the origins of that, the distorted term Negro, which is Spanish for black. And since Portuguese, Spanish-speaking people were largely involved with the slave trade in the beginning, that became the label. And then we went from that, and then colored was supposed to be the more respectable term. And then black, which the idea was to take away the stigma of the color black, and then Afro-American, and then African-American, which was designating our continent, our continent of origin. But we never did know the country. Of course, now you can get a DNA test and actually find out where on the continent some of your ancestors originated from. But we never really did get a definable country that all of us came from. And the word colored, as you said, it gives the impression that white people don't have a color, which isn't really correct. But that's been the best we could do, coming out of slavery. That was what they came through. So now when people speak of people of color, they're not only just talking about African descendant people. Now it's anybody who is not white, because the thought is white people don't have a color. So it's colored people, which means everybody, and then there's white people.
We can dump on them.
Yeah.
But it gets back to what you said today that stood out. It was interesting that Chantina came up. This is the country we built. And it was her father,
yes,
that came up with the term African American.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the nationalists have been saying it for years. The civil rights people were sort of still kind of with the term Negro, and then black. So, we had a lot of different factions of people trying to figure out what to call us and what it meant.
Well,
so what do you think each label means? what does it say?
The thing is, being kidnapped from a continent is different from coming from a country by choice. And as I said before, when the people on the continent do not call themselves the continent, they call themselves a country. They say, I'm from Ghana, I'm from Nigeria, I'm from Kenya. As a matter of fact, when Barack Obama was asked, how does it feel to be the first black president, he said, I'm not the first black president. Black has no standing in law. I am the first Kenyan American president.
Because his father was from Kenya.
And so, see, this is what the difference is. African America claims the continent, but it doesn't put the emphasis on the country that we built.
Right, and the interesting thing, the person who was the MC, well, he was one of the ones presenting the awards, James Gomez. His origin is Nigeria, and when he was presenting one of the awards to the recipient, he said, "This is the third Nigerian that has received an award."
And this is the whole point. We can't say the first people of color, or because first of all, the law is unlawful to discriminate based on race, creed, or color. And you want to get rid of racism, but every time you open your mouth, you're talking about a race, and you're dumping on white people. I came up in the days of Jim Crow genocide, and I didn't feel good as a little girl being segregated out of the human family because my skin color was black. The white children don't feel good about being segregated out of the human family. And so
I'm colored, then what are you?
Exactly.
I don't have a color.
Why are you saying people of color if you're not willfully omitting someone?
Yeah. That's to say, I don't have color. That wouldn't make us.
So why are we doing that? If it's unlawful, why do we keep using this unlawful language? And I was very concerned last week on the Tamara show they had Chief Justice Sotomayor, and she was on there. I'd never seen a Supreme Court judge in my life being in an interview, even though it was virtual. Talking about a book. I didn't know Supreme Court judges were even allowed to do that. But anyway, she used the term people of color. I said, now wait a minute. This is a chief judge of the United States of America. She should know, regardless of race, creed, or color, and she should never be using that language because that language is reverse segregation. At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's not okay to freeze anyone based on race out of the human family. And it's just an ugly, unnatural, reverse segregation language. And we seem to be thinking that it's perfectly okay.
So how do we get to a point as a human family that we stop labeling people by skin color, by any artificial thing? I mean, one of the things, you could be a so-called race based on your parentage, but physically, you might be very light complected. I've seen a room full of people, and they're all different colors, but some will consider themselves black, some will consider themselves maybe Asian, some will consider themselves Hispanic, some will consider themselves white, and they might all be about the same shade.
But we do know the difference.
We know the difference.
When we say Asian, first of all, when they had the kind of report, they said 2 Americans, 1 white, 1 black. White people had their color.
Right.
And
it was white.
It was 1 white, 1 black. And then once the set aside, it was separate and unequal. And that white society created it. White institutions maintain it, and white society condones it.
Yeah.
So they said we really had a white problem, we never had a black problem. Right. And this is what, and that kind of report said that a follow-up report was mandatory, but it never happened. But the point is, when you're going to say set aside to help black people catch up, because you have given them 246 years of not even being a human being a movable property thing by law with absolutely no rights by law, whether they were emancipated or not. This is what the Supreme Court Dred Scott decision had said. So when you go back to June 10th, hey, this is the Supreme Court decision of 1857. So we're talking about 1863, 6 years later. No. The Supreme Court decision says whether you are emancipated or not. So we do need to get the language straight. But what this did was set aside for black people, because you held them back for 246 years, then another 88 years you release them without anything. Then another, no home,
right.
No land, no family,
nothing,
no education,
just go.
Transportation, not even
a
pair of shoes.
It's like if you kick your 18-year-old out of the house and say, okay, go be on your own now, and they have no job skills, they have no money, they have no credit, no home. Just get out. You'll figure out how to make it. No, you won't, because you need to have a foundation.
When you get out of jail, they give you car fare.
Right, to go where?
You had no transportation, not even a pair of shoes to pull yourself up by bootstraps. But the fact of the matter is, the set aside was the 1 white, 1 black. But when the set aside resources started pouring in, now all of a sudden, minorities.
Minorities.
We changed the word,
right.
Minorities.
Right.
Now this is what is so fascinating to me. If you're talking about the Asian minority, you're talking about countries Harbor.
Yes.
You're talking about Korea, powerful enough to be in a conflict with America. You're talking about Vietnam, powerful enough. You're talking about the country of
China,
India, China,
China,
Japan, but they are a
and,
minority.
and globally, Asians are in the majority. So
But
where's the minority party?
Right, but these are all countries, powerful countries, but they are minorities. And then you go to Latinos. Well, they've got the country of Mexico, the country of Puerto Rico.
Not to mention Spain.
See, there are countries.
So where's the
Now
minor part?
You get to even, and so when you say black, you're a race. You have not one country. You
Right.
have not one island. You have not one anything.
Because you're not identifying with Nigeria or Senegal or Ghana.
You are a race.
Yeah.
You are a race that was kidnapped from a continent, and the set aside for you has become the set aside for minority.
Everybody else.
If that wasn't bad enough, now you make all women, including white women,
And minority. Because they were previously discriminated against. That's the argument. So then white women get to be included in that status of minority.
Now the white man is back in on the set aside through his wife, through his daughter, through his cousins, through his aunts, through
his grandma.
And so now everybody on the planet America are minorities except the white man.
Right. It's insane.
He's a majority.
He's a majority, yeah.
What?
Even though numerically they are not. But
But he's a woman.
But
He's a minority.
Yeah.
He's the only woman.
Yes. And has the majority of control of the assets.
He's as a majority.
So
the only majority in the world is the white man, and everybody else is minority, including his wife.
Doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense, and I don't know why people didn't bring that up. No. You represent a country. We are a race of people, and you're going to get in on what was set aside for our unique experience, and now all these countries have come in. And what is so interesting about that word minority, let everybody in, I noticed it yesterday. I had an appointment at the Eyes, Nose, and Throat Clinic, and I looked up on the wall, and there was one black doctor. One, and I have known him, he's been there for decades. One black doctor. Everybody else were mostly white women. They were on this whole board. So I said, oh, now I get it. Once they made the white woman the member of a minority, most of the jobs or the set-asides or anything that would have gone to black nurses or black doctors, now all of a sudden, and then you see the Asian men, one black woman man, but then there was about 5 Asian men and looked like 4 or 5 others that could have been something else, and one. One, and it hit me. I said, now I see the real full impact of what that word minority that allowed all these countries, and especially white women, because once you became a minority, we've got 3 white women here. So we've got our minority quota.
That's right, we got our quota. There we go.
You know.
So now I've heard you often introduce yourself as a Jim Crow genocide survivor, which explains an experience in history. So rather than giving ourselves a label based on color or even a continent or whatever, should we identify ourselves as the unique people who went through the experience of kidnapping, forced imprisonment, transportation, enslavement, and basically being held hostage and being held captive before finally being let go in a land where we had no resources and having to literally start with nothing and create everything that we have today, even as we continue to be suppressed and attacked and discriminated against. If we're identifying ourselves with that experience, what is a word or group of words that could be used as an identity?
Yeah, right. Because what we need to say is coming, kidnapped from a continent, coming in chains is different from coming from countries by choice.
Right.
Whether that country is Scotland or Europe or Haiti or Japan, or it doesn't. You came from a country by choice. Now, the reason that's important is we're different, but we don't want to be different. We are so recognition starved as a spiritual and physical thing until we really want to be just like everybody else.
So now,
And
some people, though, they make the argument, well, we've had several generations past slavery, so can we still identify with that experience? Nobody living now today even remembers slavery. Most of the parents or grandparents who might have been born there,
remember
they're all
George
dead.
Washington? Do we remember George Washington?
No, we weren't alive when he was.
We
Yeah.
remember George
I didn't know him
Washington.
personally,
That
but
was a long time ago. We remember 2,000 years ago. We will talk about it. A brass-colored man, a woolly-haired man with bronze-colored feet to the Bible. We remember him and that violent
2,000 years ago,
in
the violent death.
that violent death that happened to him. So we and why we still remember that. If you don't have people without a history, it's like
Okay, I guess we have a minute. So we in that minute we figured it out, y'all. We have a name.
NAAs.
NAAs. We are
Indigenous.
NAAs.
Right.
All right, we go.
I know you heard of NAACP.
What is the
United
NAACP?
Negro.
Yeah.
United
No, wait a
Negro
minute. NAACP is the
National
Association
Association
of Advancement of Colored People.
That's right. The
So
National
now,
Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
so now
That's
we are NAAs, which
without the CP,
without the CP.
without the colored people on there.
Right. So now
Indigenous
it's
Native American Africans. And the American Africans and the
now, would that be an
American
INAA?
Indigenous Native, INAA.
Okay. INAA. Okay. We got it. We got a new label, y'all. We are
NAAs, the Indigenous Native American Africans, not African claiming the continent, because that's not on your passport. America is on your passport. So the country and then the continent, because we don't want to forget where we came from. But the point is, we, the Indigenous Native American and the Indigenous Native American African, are twin victims of the American genocidal Holocaust. They got Holocaust when their land was snatched. We got Holocaust when we were snatched from our homeland to work that stolen land for 246 years as a movable property thing called chattel. So with all the things that they got, exempt status, cultural rights, sovereignty, land, and money, we need the same thing.
Ooh, there you go. Well, in the minute we have left, tell our viewers what they can expect this upcoming Saturday, this fourth Saturday of the month. Mamadee will be on the Female Solution Global Radio TV show, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time. So you're going to tune in at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution and call in 515-605-9325 and press 1 when you want to speak and give your opinion. What's our topic?
The theme this year, the June 25th, 2022, is there anything wrong with being homosexual? Because we've heard a lot of noise, ain't nothing wrong with being homosexuals. We're not saying it is, and we're not saying it isn't. We're saying let us discuss it and find out, how did you come to believe whatever way you believe?
I think that's a very important discussion to have. It's been definitely, what was it? Was it last month? No, or this month? No, this month is supposed to be Pride Month, right? So, yeah. So when we talk about identity, and someone wrote a book, or did an article, "What is a woman?" All of that. So as we identify ourselves as human beings, does gender matter? And we need to take a look at that. And all the things it's going to represent, especially because you have women that are designated as a minority group. And okay, can you then be a white male and decide to be a female and then be a minority?
And I think the Supreme Court just ruled on something about that, because they said if the sex transformation surgery happened before puberty, that's one thing. But if it happened after puberty, when the male has got his maleness and his bulk of strength and everything that really kind of separates men from females, then that's a whole different thing. So it's not going to be, I'll just put on a dress and say God put me in the wrong body, and instead of taking that up with God, I'm taking it up with government.
Well, tune in, watch us. We'll be live on the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. Until next time, I'm Yhwhnewbn on the Media Connections TV, and
I'm Evangel Mamadee Love. Let's just love souls into shape instead of whipping them into shape, causing them to get bent out of shape. If we love them into shape, they will stay in shape, because hatred is a weapon of mass destruction.
Ooh. See you soon.